All right, guys, here we are again, church debater and preacher Mike. How you doing, Mike?
I'm good today, man. You?
Good. I'm good. Let me tell you
I
what
know where you are. I know why you're good.
What's that?
You're on vacation.
But I am on vacation. We are right now, this is Tuesday, so we're in Hot Springs, Arkansas. We're meeting our Missouri friends in Arkansas first, and then we're going to their condo in the Branson, Missouri area, which I understand a lot of the shows are back open, but most importantly, the restaurants are open. So, we'll have some place to feed ourselves. And we usually, we'll cook out a lot too, but yes, vacation is always a good thing. Let me tell the viewers what we're doing today. We're going to do something a little bit different, and Mike is going to be able to call me by a derogatory term, so he is going to enjoy that, I'm sure. I'll let you know what that is here soon, Mike. Are you up for that?
Sure.
All right. So this is going to be like a rapid fire question and answer. What I'm going to do is just make a statement. I'm not going to tell you if I really believe that, but it will lead us into a discussion. So it's I started to call it hot sinful subjects, but that just didn't sound right. And then I said, well, it's kind of a rapid fire Q&A, but I don't want to lead you to think that you're not welcome to talk as much about any one of these as you do. But the name of the game is Greg, You're a Doofus. Okay? So you like that, don't you? I can tell you like that already.
Let's should we do a Greek word study on doofus?
Should I not be saying that word? What conclusion? If you want to use the word idiot, I'm perfectly fine with that too. All right. So I've got several topics that I'll say. I'll make a statement, and then you can either say, Greg, you're a doofus. Greg, you're not a doofus, and then explain why. Okay?
Okay.
All right, here's the first one. I think that a lot of times one of the topics that come up that Christians like to compare themselves to other Christians is taking a drink, drinking. We know that the Bible says, preaches, obviously the Bible states to us that drunkenness is a sin. But what I've noticed in public places, and I'll just give you a story from a cruise ship that will explain where I'm going with this. We were seated at a table with another gentleman and his daughter, probably about 10 years old. And the waitress came around and said, does anybody want anything to drink? And I could tell the guy looked at us and then he said, oh, I don't drink. Emphatically, he said, I don't drink. So is that one of those kind of things that we're bragging about that we don't drink? Is it okay for us to say just emphatically, I don't drink, to try to make us look better than other people? So I guess what I want you to respond to is when I go out of my way to tell somebody I don't drink, is that a sin? No, let me say it in the game format.
Good.
Whenever I hear somebody say I don't drink, to me that's a sin.
Well, I think you're a doofus.
I like this game already.
I think part of that is because I want to know local that I'm going to see all the time. I want them to know I don't drink. I want you to understand that. Which, by the way, just so you know, I absolutely despise alcohol. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I wish it didn't exist. But to say that my standing up for what I think is the way to live, absolutely, I think that's a good thing to do. Now, if I do it in a way that I'm trying to brag that I'm better than you because I don't, well, no, that's different. But so there's a yes and no simply because I don't know the attitude with which a person would say that. If I would say, by the way, I don't drink, as though I do and you don't, I don't and you do, so I'm better. No. But if I say, no, I don't drink, I don't take in that, that's a different attitude. So the way you stated the question on the rapid fire.
Yes, yes. Good. Why wouldn't the guy just say no? Sir, do you want to drink? No.
In that situation, it would be fine. But to stand up and make a statement about what you believe, I can't go with that.
You know, the other example I thought of, what if I saw him yelling at the waitress right after he said that about something?
Good point.
And he looked at me and said, don't you think I should get upset? And I declared, oh, I don't get angry. You don't drink, I don't get angry. So it's like we're bragging about what we don't have a problem with. But that's where I wanted to go. It's all in the attitude.
It is,
and of
in
course,
the bragging part, yeah.
And let me support what you said in the beginning. One reason, one way I've taught this subject with high school students is nobody takes I'm not going to sit there and say that you can't take one drink, but nobody takes that first drink. No alcoholic took their first drink and thought they were going to be an alcoholic. So that's enough to stop right there. If you interviewed every alcoholic in the world, well, none of them wanted to be an alcoholic. It just happened because they couldn't control it. But again, and some of us can't control anger. Some of us can't control gossip, and it's all right. So let's go to the next one here. I get so tired of people getting angry. I think anger is just as bad a sin as murder.
You are not a doofus. That is, you are. In fact, if you look in Revelation 21:8, the things that are lumped into one category of people who will be in the fires of hell include murders and liars. And so but anger, Matthew chapter 5 says that if you're angry with your brother, then you are certainly on the road to murder. Nobody murdered without being angry. Now, it may be spontaneous anger, or it might have been accumulated anger over time, planning it. Murder happens because of anger. And so in that situation, he is simply saying, don't be angry because it helps you not to be a murderer. Just like he would say, don't be lustful because it keeps you potentially from being a fornicator.
Good.
Or covetous. So, yeah, no, you're not a doofus.
All right, good. I got one of them right. All right, here we go. 90% of Christians believe what they believe based on what they've heard rather than what they've studied.
You're only a doofus because you put a percentage on it.
Good. That's a good answer. That's a good answer.
I don't have a clue what percentage. I have a thought process that a lot of Christian people are the way they are simply because they've always been taught that way. And it's easy. I've said it for a while, but I really want to get it done this year. I want to write a book on that whole concept. And the idea is be able to say, this is why I believe what I believe. Are there people who live their Christianity because this is what the preacher said? Yes. This is what their parents said? Yes. This is what they've always done and it's comfortable? Yes. I don't know what the percentage is, but I certainly think it exists and it's extremely dangerous.
Good, good. That's a good answer. All right, let's see here. You'll like this one. In fact, I think I've heard one of your classes recently where you touched on this. Romans 13 tells me anytime I break a law, I've committed a sin.
I would, I got to say this. That's a hard one to say, but it illustrates actually the principle. So you're not a doofus, and yet you are. Here is the point. In every situation of law, there are two facets. There is the letter of the law, there is the spirit of the law.
We learned that from the Andy Griffith show, didn't we?
Yeah, that's exactly right. The truckers, that's exactly right. Now, here's the point. I believe that every single day on a continual basis, we violate letters of the law. If you travel 1 mile over a speed limit, at that moment, you have broken the letter of the law. That's a fact. But you may not have broken the spirit of the law. I know this. It is an understood fact, and they even have a rhyme for it in the State Patrol. 9 your fine, 10 your mind. The spirit of the law includes some distance above that letter of the law limit. Do I violate the letter when I drive 71? Absolutely. Am I violating the spirit? I don't think so. So to say that every single thing is done makes it a sin, well, now that's an interesting way of putting it, because if so, everybody daily, continually is in some way guilty of violating a letter of the law and therefore sinning on a continuing basis. I'm not comfortable with that. Now, it brings up an even bigger point, which is, what is the difference between the governor saying, here's what we want you to do when you open back up, versus he made a law versus a recommendation?
Right.
Well, that's a tough thing to understand. But violating the spirit of the law, I think, is easier to understand. And therefore, I think that's the key. That's just I have to admit, that's a tough one to say. But by the letter of the law, you were right. You're not a doofus. By the spirit of the law, you are a doofus.
I might have to write that down. Well, let's stay in Romans. And I know what your answer is going to be. Romans 16:16 says, greet one another with a holy kiss.
Yep.
Man, I'm sinning because I don't kiss everybody when I come into the church building.
I understand that. That's exactly what makes you a doofus. No, you are not a doofus, because the idea of holy kiss has two facets, kiss and holy. The word literally means, or has the idea connected to it, of presenting yourself and appreciating that person and welcoming them and open your arms and that kind of thing. I obviously do not think that every single person has to be kissed, literally kissed. I think it is a common practice in certain cultures, and I think that's where the passage came from. There's a commonality to a traditional way of doing things, would be my way of saying it. But in the other way, if you look at it in the figurative sense, the understood sense, then yes, every single person you should greet with a holy kiss. And if you don't, you're a doofus.
All right. I'm not sure this is going the direction I wanted it to, but we'll see. All right. Now, this is a heavy one. This is, we could probably do it. We could have done a whole episode on any of these, but God knows everything. So what I do has already been decided.
You're a doofus. Just because God knows it doesn't mean he decided it.
Good.
God is simply in eternity, out of time, and he knows all that has happened, but he does not cause it to happen.
Good.
And I like to look at it sort of like the person who puts a piece of cheese at the end of a maze, the other end, and when you are sitting above it, you can see the route to the cheese. And if the mouse makes it to the cheese, did you predetermine that that was the route he was going to take? No, you just knew it because you could see it.
Good, good. You know, it's funny. You know, I'm a math guy. I'm actually reading a math book right now. I've forgotten the name of it, but it's meant to help you teach students that say, when am I ever going to use this in life?
That's good.
How it's used, and for that matter, how it's abused, because one of the chapters is about all these ridiculous survey results that we study sometimes, where there might have been 100 studies that prove something wrong and one that gave an indication that it might be right. Well, that one is the one that gets published. And so, you know, it's kind of along the lines of what you were just saying, but we don't have to go too far with that. But, all right. So next one. I like to make sure I have my patience under control by always getting in the longest line at Walmart or at the stoplight.
How could I ever call you a doofus for that? That's hey, I like those kinds of things. Intentionally disciplining self is a great idea. Jack Hall told me about a guy he knew. Every year, he chose one thing to avoid that he really liked. It proved to himself that he was still in charge. So for 1 year, he didn't watch television. 1 year, he didn't eat chocolate. 1 year, and just miss. And to discipline oneself, how can you? Yeah, that's great. How about this one? Always park at the far end of the parking lot so you get exercise.
That's good. That's
Leave
good.
the upper ones for the people who can't walk.
That's good. That's good.
You're definitely not a doofus, Greg Collins.
I'll give you another example. One of the Christians that I work with told me that as much as he loves coffee, he gives up coffee once a month to make sure he controls it and it doesn't control him. So I like, and that's basically what you were saying too.
I like it.
All right. So one of the verses, I tell you what, I had another verse pulled up, but I'm going to change real quick because one of the verses that just makes me uncomfortable every time I read it, and it's because I'm reading it out of context. It is 1 Corinthians 1:25, and it says this: for the foolishness of God is wiser than human wisdom, and the weakness of God is stronger than human strength. So let me say it like this. Mike, I don't think God is either foolish or weak.
You are certainly not a doofus there.
What's the purpose of that verse?
I think it is a tough. I think it is. There's a way in which God, of course, writes scripture to help us in our world, not in his world. And therefore, we judge everything from a human standpoint, a physical standpoint, stronger to weaker, wiser to foolish. And God is simply exaggerating a point to say, if there was anything foolish with God, the wisest thing you can find on the earth is still nothing compared to that. So obviously he's not foolish and he's not weak. It is a descriptive way of reaching and making a point in the human realm because he lives in the eternal realm.
Good, good. All right, now I think this one will take a while, maybe not, but I'm going to read verses first and then I'll make this statement. So feel free to talk about this one as long as you want to. You're going to know as soon as I give you the passage what the statement's going to be anyway. 1 Thessalonians 4, 13 through 18.
Mm.
Brothers and sisters, we do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep in death, so that you do not grieve like the rest of mankind who have no hope. For we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him. According to the Lord's word, we tell you that we who are still alive, who are left until the coming of the Lord, will certainly not precede those who have fallen asleep. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet call of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so we will be with the Lord forever. So, here's my statement. I think our bodies are going to be united with our spirits even after we pass away when the judgment day comes. Therefore, we will look exactly the same in heaven.
I would say that you're a doofus for claiming to know what God has not revealed. So I don't have a problem with the idea of looking the way we do now. Doesn't concern me. But to say that that's what's going to happen, I can't know that because it hasn't been revealed. So for me to try to figure out with any kind of certainty and clarity, this is the body. This is the look. This is what's going to happen. I think anybody's a doofus who says, I have it figured out and I know the answer. I know this is going to be immortal. You could have used 1 Corinthians 15, would have been a great place to go. This mortal must put on immortality. This corruption must put on incorruption. I know that God is presented as a being who has ears and eyes and nose and a mouth and hands and feet. Every one of those things are used of God. Am I to think that therefore we all are going to have those? Yes. But do they look like they do now? I don't know. That is anthropomorphic language. It's in the form of human language.
You're just trying to show off now.
I am. Exactly right. It's my turn to be a doofus. And so that's, but I can't, I am not comfortable with anybody who says, I've got this part figured out. We're going to look this way and walk this way, be this way and talk this way. But so that's the way I would go with that one.
Good, good. All right, we've got one more to go, and it's based on a recently current event by a family that is known for their religion. They became popular by making duck calls. They're named the Robertsons. Mm-hmm. I listen to their Unashamed podcast just about every week. And Phil Robertson, the father of the group, who is, I think, now 72 years old, has always been very open about the time that he did not treat his family correctly, did not treat his wife correctly. He had affairs, and he came to Jesus and was converted, but chose to be he didn't want to bring up his past, but didn't want to not speak of his past, to the point that his wife forgave him for all of that lifestyle. She said, now, you know, someday that something could come from your past that you'll have to deal with. So he's often talked about his past and how he was in such a bad place at that time, almost so unconscious all the time that he didn't even know what was going on. Well, the last 2 months, he found out that he had a daughter that he didn't know about. And they've been very open about that on the show recently. And They have accepted her. She's actually a Christian and has done mission work. So very good individual. She's 45 years old. But my real statement is this. Those folks that are now Christians but have come from a part of their life in which they were not. My statement would be, I think they should be completely open about what happened to them when they were still in a sinful relationship, so that surprises don't undermine anything that may come up about their past later. Does that make sense? How open should we be about our past when we may have been in a sinful situation?
I'm going to veer off. It's too serious to handle that doofus and non-doofus.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that.
What I think is this. I believe that many people who, for instance, would respond to a sermon that I preach and ask for prayer. They've convicted about something. And I never say, you need to be specific and tell everybody what you did. I've never said that about anything. One reason is people don't forget. We don't forget those things. And if we know the details, then it's going to taint our view, fog our person, because we can't get over those details.
Good.
However, when those things on their own come up, then face them, own up to them. But especially as it relates to sexual sins, you admit those things, people don't get over it. They just don't. And they avoid you. They are leery of you as a person. You know, if you were a person who had gotten involved in the world of prostitution, whether from the male side or the female side, and you just come out and start talking about it, what do you think the women are going to think about you? I mean, it's just, so I think that if it comes up, don't run from it. Fess up to it. But to say that it is a good idea to specify the details of every single thing, number one, that's not required before people to be forgiven.
Right.
That. Number two, it is something that you can't avoid with God because he already knows it anyway.
Right, right.
So I think it's more of a protective measure until it actually does come up.
Good, good. And I will say two things. I will say that I don't think, and I haven't had a terrible life. I didn't always study my Bible the way I should. But there's some things that, since I teach young people, I don't want them to know about.
Right.
But I guess if they ever ask me that, I would have to be honest and what I learned from it. Now, I will tell you, I think the Robertsons actually feel exactly the way you just said. And the only reason they've been very public about it is because they are now celebrities. Sure. Everybody knows who they are. They didn't want any surprises. And one of the sons made the point, had they not done it this way, well, just think about how much the press would just be all over them, to the point of maybe even ruining their ministry.
Yeah.
So that's why, and they embraced that young lady. She is like I said, she's a missionary, and she wasn't going after Mr. Robertson to try to get his money. She actually found this out accidentally through a DNA test.
Wow.
And her mother had never told her who her father was. So it was really kind of an interesting story. And by the time it was all over, even that good things came from it. One of I think the most interesting point is Mr. Robertson knows exactly when he came back to Jesus. And it was to the date. And it was like 4 days before this lady was born.
Wow.
So tell me, that's kind of, that means nothing, but yet it can't help but make you think. She said, I'm just so thankful that you found Jesus before I was even in the world, before I was even born. And that even something that simple made her feel good about him.
And you know what's so
But
cool
anyway,
too? Yeah,
go
your
ahead.
thing, what you said, they were concerned what the press would have done with it. They're always looking to destroy good people anyway. Now, the way they've handled it, there's no way to destroy anything. In fact,
Right.
Christianity looked even better,
Exactly.
and therefore it worked out well.
Good. Good.
Hmm.
What profound closing thoughts. And I'm thankful that you treated me real nicely today, even though I gave you permission not to. What closing thoughts you have for us?
My closing thought is I wish I'd kept score, but I didn't. I didn't keep the score, so I don't know. But for all of you out there, Greg and I have done doofus and non-doofus things for 30 years now. So.
Yeah, I'll close with this then. I think part of my charm is that I'm a doofus. And I think one of the reasons I enjoy substitute teaching so much and the kids seem to enjoy me is because I do so many doofus type things that I keep them in constant laughter. So I guess that's just, I don't know if that's a fault or a good quality. I don't know. All right,
So
Mike,
Greg,
and go ahead.
Greg, the lovable doofus.
I like that. I'm getting a t-shirt printed right now. All right. All right, guys, remember that our Facebook page is the Church Debater and Preacher Mike. You can contact us at churchdebater@gmail.com. And we're thankful that you watched us or listened to us today. And we'll see you next week. See you, Mike.
Bye-bye.